you don't have information about what's going on in Venezuela. All that you have is that what the US want you to have, and that is trying to promote this idea that the best thing that could happen is a political change in Venezuela. When I was talking about this fact about the imminent threat against Venezuela, I was mentioning the psychological warfare. It's important to know that in the last weeks, we have seen a lot of different fake news refer to Venezuela. Like, for example, this video footage that I mentioned that Donald Trump has shown, we think that most of them are some fake news because we don't know if there were actually trafficking drugs. We don't know if there was in national waters. We don't know anything. We just know that he murdered some people over there, and they stated publicly. But they have this massive control of the international media, where they can say anything and people will hear them, but people won't hear us. So 3 days ago, YouTube canceled the Nicolas Maduro channel, which was one of the medias that we have in order to promote what we are saying. Nicolas Maduro has been doing these international press conferences in order to talk about what's going on to the international press media, but then YouTube canceled that channel. And of course, it's about this cancellation process that they have been promoting against Venezuela in the last years. What I could mention now is that what we think is that from the military point of view, the United States could mobilize forces very easily, but we can, of course, have some cost. You have to pay for this military mobilization. The different the level of military mobilization that they had so far in Venezuela is not enough in order to execute a classical military invasion in Venezuela. That military force, it's important, but they won't defeat, let's say, military Venezuelan forces with that capacity that they have there. Of course, they have it over there and they can mobilize it, but they haven't mobilized it yet. The military force that they have there, as we can analyze, can allow them to make different stuff. On the one hand, they could be like logistical support for any different kind of attack forces in Venezuela, mercenary forces, inner forces, some attempt of coup d'etat, internal coup d'etat. So it's kind of an scenario like, for example, I don't know if you remember in Libya, they didn't attack directly. They were promoting these different mercenary groups that were, of course, supported by the United States, but were not military forces from the United States. So we think that they can try to promote that kind of aggression and to bring logistical support to these paramilitary forces. The other scenario is the one that they are leading so far, that is to establish a line of attack with any embarkation, with any navy that could move in the Caribbean front of Venezuela. That, of course, is a measure in order to weaken the possibilities of international trade from Venezuela. Because, of course, any oil tanker that could go over there, it's under the threat of a possible attack. And any other trade navy ship that you can have is threatened by this by this deepening of the blockade, because it's in a physical phase of the blockade. So far, they have sanctions, but at this moment, they have a physical blockade with military navy ships. And the other thing is that we don't know where is going, what's the direction that they are going toward with these different attacks of little embarkations in our border. We think that is part of this psychological warfare, but at the same time, is what we call, I don't know if you are familiar with this term from Colombia. We know it here from Colombia, which is the false positive, they call, which is a strategy that they promote in the warfare against in the armed conflict in Colombia in the last decades. They has promoted this strategy from the formal military, that in order to attack some different points of the guerrilla in some places, they fabricate an operation like an attack against the military forces, and then they produce that, and they said they attack us. We had to repel them. I mean, I will put it in an example. What they do in Colombia is that they attack civilian population, and then they change the clothes, and they put it military clothes and arms in their hands, and they said it was a military territory, and we had to attack it in order to prevent that they attack us. That's what we call a false positive, which is basically the fabrication of an scenario that can give you the base argument for an attack. That's the reason that in the recent weeks we have been talking here in different experiences that we have in that manner. For example, in previous to the Cuban Revolution, it started a process of confrontation from the United States against Spain. That was in the past century. It was related with the blowing of a U.S. embarkation. Is this fabrication of a situation in order to promote a military campaign? So that's what we are afraid of now, that could be happening with this phase of the aggression. From the point of view of the Venezuelan government, there has been two important public actions. One of them is that the Venezuelan government has called to the population in order to voluntary enlistment in the military forces, in the people's militia, in order to prepare for any military aggression against Venezuela. So in the last weeks, we have had this process of voluntary enlistment in the people's militia, and so far we have something like the last number that I heard. It's something like 11 million of people that has been enlisted in the people's militia to confront any aggression against Venezuela. So basically, it has been a patriotical journey of all the population demonstrating the rejection that we feel against the U.S. attempt of imperialist attack. I can say that in the streets of Venezuela, we are basically normal, natural life going on. Everyone is doing their life as always, but you can have this tension. Everybody knows about this imminent threat. Of course, most of the population is against this threat. And the political, digamos, let's say, the most organized sector of our population is organizing from the communes in order to confront or to prepare, maybe, not to confront, to prepare to prevent any possible aggression against Venezuela. Of course, it has like race, patriotical spirit, anti-imperialist spirit in the whole, let's say, the whole grassroots in Venezuela at this moment. The other public response from the Venezuelan government has been in the public arena. They has been making this press conference in order to inform which one is the situation, in order to warn the international community for this aggression. The CELAC has made a public statement against this threat in the Caribbean. Also, the non-aligned movement has also made a statement against this. And in the international arena, we have been trying to promote this rejection against this military threat in Venezuelan border. Nicolas Maduro has been promoting this idea that we need to dialogue. Recently, he sent a letter to Trump where he tried to tell him the situation, the way it's going on. That's an important mark to make some comment to make about it. That is that so far the Venezuelan government has been promoting the thesis that this all aggression against Venezuela has been primarily promoted by Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, which is a key asset of the whole sectors of the Cuban anti-revolutionary bases in the US. I mean, basically, he responds to the most fundamentalist and anti-counter-revolutionary different political bases in the US. So one of the things that we have been promoting as a thesis is that maybe Marco Rubio is trying to promote the war as the military attack against Venezuela as a possibility for a change of regime. So far, Nicolas Maduro has been trying to promote this dialogue channel with Trump in order to say that's not true. We are not a threat. You're pointing the things in a wrong direction. The last thing that I could mention about this whole resume that I was making is that when you see the numbers of how the drug trading works in our region, in Latin America, the 80% of the drug trafficking occurs in the Ocean Pacific. It's not by the Caribbean Sea. And Venezuela is not a producer of drug and neither an important provider. So here in Venezuela are not important drug cartel of trafficking of drugs. So it's basically an invention. This idea that you have a cartel, an important cartel here in Venezuela, is just a delusion. It's a living proof or how manipulated can be the international media and how you can state a situation no matter if it makes no sense. So basically, actually, the most important operation happened from drugs, happened from Colombia, Ecuador, and sadly, in Mexico, of course, there is an important part of this trafficking network. Venezuela is at the most one of the places of an escalation place. It's like some place where the drug comes and goes, but it actually not an important amount of the drug that is going into the United States. That of course it's the main consumer in the whole region of fentanyl and different kind of drugs. So it's said that they use this kind of that they have the possibility to fabricate these nonsense arguments in order to promote an aggression against one of the countries. we think that on the one hand, the Venezuelan government is not good for the United States for different reasons. First, the oil control. They don't have control of the oil in Venezuela. It's a problem for them logistically for any kind of different business and any kind for different capital circuits in this region and globally. Venezuela is one of the most important oil reserves in the world. So to control the oil in Venezuela is one of the most important things for the US possibility to guarantee, to try to reaccommodate their global hegemony. That's one of the important issues. The second issue is that Venezuela has promoted a non-aligned position and a non-aligned international articulation. In our region, you have ALBA that has been promoted for Venezuela. Even CELAC has been promoted by Venezuela. Venezuela is one of the pioneers in this relation building with Russia, with China, with Iran. I mean, with different non-aligned and possible emerging countries. That's also an important threat for the United States. And of course, Venezuela is socialist. Venezuela has declared in Latin America as an anti-imperialist process, anti-colonialist process, anti-capitalist process, and also socialist process. And that's maybe not the main issue against Venezuela, but of course, it's important when you see that recently they have been trying to overthrow or to make political changes in the region. Like, for example, forced Ecuador. Ecuador was one of these governments that promoted this Bolivarian alternative, but also promoted the necessity of a change, a constituent process in order to change the political laws, the political agreements in the country. Then you have recently Bolivia. They have achieved this possibility of change, political change in Bolivia. Sadly, we will have in October a new right government in Bolivia, and we think that when you see that paramount, you say, well, the first threats in Latin America are Venezuela and Cuba, are the two socialist countries in the region, and of course, both under sanctions, under blockade, and they have this massive aggression. I think that maybe United States could be seeing the possibility to overthrow Venezuela, Cuba, but also that could be the possibility to reorganize, to recompose their control, their hegemony in this region. Because since the beginning of this century, there has been a change of tide in Latin America. You start a process of different mobilizations with a progressive and leftist process and governments. So basically, they have had a disorganization of the whole backyard in this 20th century. So at this moment, maybe the United States is seeing the possibility to reestablish the order in the backyard, as they call us. So maybe it's a possibility to restate the Monroe Doctrine of the United States in order to guarantee their hegemony in Latin America. We have this thesis that we thought that maybe when if Trump could be elected in the United States 2 years ago, we said, well, maybe Trump could finish a little the conflicts in Russia and Ukraine and also in the Middle East, and they will come to Latin America. We didn't want that happen, but so far what we are seeing is that maybe that what is going on. Trump is aligning over here in order to guarantee oil control in this area to then go for any other kind of conflicts. Maybe the conflict Israel Iran could be an strategical conflict for the one the US need to guarantee oil control in this area in order to have the possibility for an upcoming conflict to recompose the global hegemony. The last thing that I want to mention is that we need to stay more communicated in order to guarantee the circulation of proper information, you know, because when you see social networks and you see the whole international media, they can say anything about Venezuela. So if we strengthen our communication, you could be more informed and you could inform another people. So that's a key issue in order to defeat the fake news. And also, by the way, to defeat the psychological warfare, because they are trying to promote this international. What we are seeing is that they are trying to promote this idea. Military attack into Venezuela is so imminent that maybe at the international arena, most of the people start to promote like, well, it has to change. That could be worse. They have to. It's better that they change Maduro in order to doesn't have this kind of military situation, you know. So basically, I think that what they are trying to organize is this setting of the public opinion in order to most of the people are willing to promote a political change in Venezuela. No matter if that is about to lose our sovereignty, our independence, and even our well-being, with the so-called argument that to save us, they are promoting the idea to make things worse for Venezuelan people. And the second issue that I think it's important is that it would be great if you can promote any action of rejection against the US policies at this moment. I think that are quite important. Any declaration or statement from our networks, our movements, our grassroots organizations, our syndicates, our political organizations, I mean, from anywhere, any demonstration that can say that every people in the world is against this military threat from the US into Venezuela, I think that's quite important, you know, because it's also to try to change this public opinion setting that they are trying to organize. We need to repel that. We need to promote an a political position against what the United States is trying to build right now. Because what they're playing is that you don't have information about what's going on in Venezuela. All that you have is that what the US want you to have, and that is trying to promote this idea that the best thing that could happen is a political change in Venezuela. So we need to promote an alternative statement. That's what I could say.